In this family, we don't need you. Please make yourself scarce immediately, dear daughter-in-law.
In a distant country, on my first trip abroad, my heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. However, as soon as we arrived at our destination, my mother-in-law threw cold words at me.
Actually, I only booked the hotel room for myself and my mom.
My husband, who was supposed to be my support, strongly agreed with her words. They looked at me with a sarcastic smile, leaving me in shock and confusion. At that moment, I realized I had been deceived. But before I could react, time had already passed. The taxi drove away with the two of them, leaving me alone and confused in a foreign country. My name is Emily. I'm 32 years old, and I balance my days between work and household chores. I exchanged wedding vows with my husband, Bob, 3 years ago, and we started our new life together in a rented apartment near my parents' in-laws' house. Bob has a warm heart and always keeps me in his thoughts. Despite our busy lives, we managed to share our household responsibilities and lived happily. However, a significant change came into our quiet and peaceful life about a year ago. After my father-in-law passed away, our daily lives changed dramatically. We started living with my mother-in-law, Susan. Until then, we had maintained a good relationship with her, meeting once a month while respecting each other's privacy. I was seriously concerned that this cohabitation would disturb the balance of our relationship. However, considering Bob's strong wish and his feelings, it was difficult for me to reject the proposal. Bob is always on my side. If we are together, there should be no problem. Convincing myself, I took the first step into our new life. However, my decision was soon put to the test.
Really? To think that you would make your husband do chores. What on earth are you thinking as a housewife?
On the first day of living together, my mother-in-law overheard me asking Bob to take out the trash tomorrow. In that instant, her complexion changed, and she raised her voice.
What are you babbling about? Such basic tasks should be done by yourself.
Susan, Bob, and I both work, and we help each other with household chores.
So what? It's the daughter-in-law's job to take care of the house. That's the rule in our home. If you don't like it, you are welcome to leave right now.
Having been subjected to such words, I came to understand mother-in-law's true intentions. Amidst the unexpected turmoil, just watch the situation for a bit. If things don't change, I will talk to her properly, were the reassuring words from Bob, leading me to believe and wait. However, as time passed, my mother-in-law's demeanor only became harsher, criticizing everything from table manners during meals to the way I handled trivial household tasks. On the other hand, I was accumulating exhaustion and stress, unknowingly starting to complain more to Bob, which, in turn, made his reactions colder with each passing day.
You're repeating yourself. Honestly, it's tough to hear the same thing over and over.
He said, I'm truly sorry. But having to deal with work from morning till night and then taking care of the housework when I get home, her critical eyes and words feel like a heavy burden. I responded,
Isn't the hardship because you aren't being smart about it? Instead of complaining, find a better way to handle things.
I know I've been complaining a lot lately, but Bob, you promised, remember? You said you'd talk to her.
Let's not talk about that anymore. All you need to do is just do as my mother says.
Bob's voice no longer carried its former warmth. He sided with his mother, no longer helping with the housework, and even started demanding me to do things he could have done himself. I felt the severity of our marriage day by day, and deep down, I started considering divorce. Amidst the daily grind of work and home, I spent my days in contemplation and indecision. Then, one day on my way home from work, I casually stopped by a familiar shopping street where a raffle was taking place. To my surprise, I won the grand prize of a 2-night, 3-day trip to Taiwan. The sound of the ringing bell from the raffle filled the air, and at that moment, my heart felt lighter than it really was. However, as soon as someone said, I hope you have a great trip with your husband, the joy in my heart became somewhat complicated. Considering my current relationship with my husband, I couldn't feel positive about going on a trip together, and I was also concerned about how my mother-in-law would react. After giving it some thought, I decided to give the trip to my mother-in-law. Whether she chooses to invite a friend or go on a marital trip with Bob, I left the decision up to her. As I was heading home, lost in thought, my smartphone buzzed with a sudden message from work. A sudden issue had arisen with a client, and regretfully, I had to return to the office. To explain the situation, I immediately called my mother-in-law, talked her through what had happened, and asked her to please use delivery or takeout for dinner. However, as I expected, my mother-in-law made a few sarcastic remarks over the phone, and when I got home, she continued with her nagging and lecturing. Overwhelmed by fatigue, I had pushed the events of the day to the back of my mind, even forgetting about the grand prize from the raffle. The next morning, arriving at work, the aftermath of the previous day's trouble had lasted longer than expected, and it looked like I would need to work late into the night. By the time I got home, the clock hands had moved deep into the night. Opening the front door, I saw the soft light in the living room, where my mother-in-law and husband, Bob, were deep in conversation. Seeing me, their talk stopped instantly. In the silence, I could feel the air charged as they tried to find words.
Emily, I heard a rumor that you won a grand prize at the shopping district's raffle. The town was abuzz with it today.
Her words brought back the events of yesterday to my mind. That's right. I had completely forgotten. Actually, I was planning to give the grand prize to you, Susan. From my bag, I carefully took out the envelope I had received at the shopping district the day before, handing it to my mother-in-law. Susan, I remember you were interested in going to Taiwan. How about using this grand prize to take a fun trip with friends or acquaintances? Taking the envelope, mother-in-law exchanged glances with Bob, then gave me an unexpected response.
In that case, I'll cover the additional costs for the three of us to go together. Opportunities like this are rare.
It was the first time she had suggested that I join them on a trip, and her words left me surprised. But I want you to use the tickets from the raffle to have a special time with Bob, just the two of you.
Emily, I appreciate your concern for us, but I will handle the extra charges, so let's make happy memories together, all three of us.
If Mom also thinks so, then going as a whole family will indeed create better memories.
Eventually, Bob agreed, and despite some hesitation, I decided to accept the trip as a family of three.
Great. In that case, I'll head to the travel agency tomorrow to check the details.
Mother-in-law's voice was filled with joy. This incident seemed to have warmed her up a bit towards me. I secretly hoped that this trip to Taiwan would become a catalyst to strengthen our family ties. And I started looking forward to the family trip from the bottom of my heart. However, when the long-awaited day of the trip finally arrived and the three of us landed at the Taiwan airport hand in hand, the situation took a direction completely opposite to what I had expected.
I want to enjoy some quality time just as a family. So, could you please wait here for a while? We feel that it's necessary to spend special moments as a family every once in a while.
As we finished the immigration procedures at the Taiwan airport and were getting ready to head to the hotel, my mother-in-law calmly said these words. Why would you say something like that? Am I not a part of the family? Did I do something to upset you?
Are you trying to hide something? Are you keeping some secrets from us?
I'm not trying to hide anything. But what are you talking about?
Stop beating around the bush. Why didn't you tell us about the prize you won at the raffle?
That's because, taken aback by her unexpected question, I lost my words for a moment. But after thinking calmly, I understood what my mother-in-law was suspicious about. Actually, I didn't intend to keep it a secret. I just really had a lot on my mind and forgot to tell you. Especially that day, I was in a panic because of sudden trouble at work. I tried hard to explain the situation to clear up the misunderstanding. However, my mother-in-law's expression did not change, and she looked distressful. At that moment, Bob, who had been silently observing the situation, decided to speak up to mediate.
I think you should think this through more deeply. Emily, I believe you are completely transparent about what you are really thinking.
Why would you assume that?
Are you planning to continue hiding your relationships with other men from me? Or is there some hidden circumstance?
On what basis do you jump to such conclusions? I couldn't hide my genuine surprise and confusion at my husband's unexpected question, and I reacted instantly. Bob sported a smug smile as if he was starring in his own little drama, laying out one hypothesis after another.
I mean, judging by your reaction just now, weren't you planning to enjoy this trip to Taiwan with another man?
That's absurd. Do you really think there's any evidence of me with another man?
And as proof, you kept hiding the lottery win from us. I think there's something fishy about that.
You're overthinking it. Do you think it's possible for me to bring a secret lover on a trip that everyone in the area knows about due to a lottery win? Despite my logical rebuttal, Bob clung to his beliefs, constantly casting doubtful glances my way as if trying to uncover some hidden truth.
Actually, I've been feeling that something was off for quite some time now. Your behavior has changed. You've been working late more often, and sometimes you rush back to the office. Even when you're at home, you seem lost in thought.
That's because I've been overwhelmed with stress from work and responsibilities at home.
It's always like this, one excuse after another. I've reached my limit of patience. It's difficult to spend family time with someone who doesn't seem to engage sincerely.
Exactly. It's really distracting to have an unwanted presence during precious family time. That's why I deliberately booked only 2 hotel rooms. The unwanted one can leave right here.
With those harsh words thrown at me, the two of them didn't look back and got into a taxi, leaving me standing there, dumbfounded. However, I soon realized something. After completing the immigration procedures, I went to the bathroom and left my bag, which contained all our valuables, with Bob. Confused, I quickly took out my cell phone and tried to contact Bob, but his response was another shock.
That bag, what was it for? Oh, to be honest, I found it bothersome and got rid of it.
I can't believe it. All of our passports were in that bag. Why would you do such a thing?
Wait, seriously? That's how it was? That might not have been so good. But you know, I think it might be better for both of us not to return home and to walk our separate packs from now on.
Wait a minute. This is serious. All of our passports, needed for travel, were in that bag. I sincerely expressed my shock and anger at Bob's behavior to him. However, he unilaterally ended the call, and no matter how many times I tried calling back, he never responded. For a few minutes, I was completely distraught, but gradually I regained my composure. I realized that my top priority was to contact the embassy. Thankfully, the procedures at the embassy went smoothly. I was able to report the loss of my passport and received temporary documents to return home. Although I overcame this series of events, my anger towards Bob and my mother-in-law only grew stronger. They had suspected me of cheating and planned a scheme to put me in a difficult situation, just because I had forgotten to tell them about the lottery win. This made me realize how lightly they took me and how malicious they were. I can't believe Bob would throw away my precious bag without my permission. Where on earth did he have such a thought in his mind? Suddenly, I remembered a certain item that was carelessly thrown away with it. A faint, satisfied smile appeared at the corner of my lips. That item had the potential to change Bob's life completely. They say the trap you set for others ends up catching you. How true that feels now. Well, Bob, let's end our relationship here. At that moment, I firmly decided to formally end my marriage with Bob. Despite being deeply hurt by this incident, I decided to make the most of this trip as a treat to myself. I enjoyed a bit of luxury, staying in a fine hotel, indulging in spa treatments for relaxation, shopping at high-end brand stores, exploring the area for delicious local cuisine, and visiting famous tourist spots. And on the last morning of my trip, as I was relaxing in my hotel room, I suddenly received a call from Bob on my smartphone.
Emily, I have something to ask you. Do you have mine and Mom's passports?
His voice was calm and gentle, as if nothing had happened the other day. Actually, about that, your passports were in my bag that you carelessly threw away.
No way. Why does this happen?
Did you forget what you yourself told me to hold on to for you? Maybe your head was just too full of thoughts on how to trouble me.
Hey, why didn't you tell me such an important thing from the start?
I tried to say it, but you were the one who abruptly hung up the phone.
Does that mean I can't go back tonight? I have a really important meeting tomorrow. What am I supposed to do now?
Seeing Bob trying to shift the blame in this situation, I decided to convey an even more shocking truth to him. Well, the meeting tomorrow might be important, but you should seriously consider what you are going to do about your life from now on. The bag you recklessly threw away had a tablet with important data in it. Bob seemed to be temporarily stunned, unable to react to the shock. I'm talking about the tablet that was issued to you by your company, where you store various work-related information. If that tablet is lost or falls into someone else's hands, your position could be in grave danger, couldn't it? In the next moment, Bob's loud voice could be heard through the phone. On the morning of his departure, Bob had intended to bring his valuable tablet from home. Worried, I suggested, isn't it risky to bring such a valuable item on a trip? However, he decided to bring it, ignoring my words because he wanted to check work-related emails in the taxi on the way to the airport.
This is bad. I'm really in trouble now. I have to find it somehow.
Then do your best to look for it. My return flight is soon, so I'll hang up now.
Wait, what do you mean return flight? Didn't you lose your passport as well?
Yes, that's right. But I promptly filed a lost report, so it's not a problem. Bob's expression suddenly changed, showing a plea for help.
Emily, please, I'm begging you. Help me look for that tablet.
Don't ask me to do that. After all, I'm not family anymore, am I?
It's hard to hear such words. I just got too emotional and said something wrong.
I don't want to hear any excuses. Regarding the divorce, I intend to consult a lawyer as soon as I return.
Isn't divorce a bit extreme? It was my mistake. I sincerely apologize. Please forgive me and help me out in this difficult situation.
Bob's voice was filled with frustration, yet it seemed to be fading away. However, I ended the call with a calm mind and changed my settings to block any further communications from him. After returning to the US, the first place I went to was the local government office. There, I acquired a divorce application and meticulously filled out my personal information. Placing it quietly on the desk as I checked it, I began to pack up my belongings one by one in the house I had lived in with his family. During this process, I handed out souvenirs I had bought on my travels to the neighbors, and I honestly told them about the troubles with my mother-in-law and Bob, as well as the imminent divorce. My mother-in-law had always been arrogant and condescending, so she was not well regarded by the neighbors to begin with. Therefore, her reputation rapidly worsened even more. A few days later, Bob, who had returned to the US with his mother, was met with a series of misfortunes. He completely botched an important presentation at work, and not only that, but he was also fired due to the loss of a tablet filled with the company's confidential information. Our divorce proceedings went smoothly, and as compensation for the great emotional distress they had caused me, I demanded a payment of about $30,000. Afterward, Bob and his mother, unable to bear the pressure from the worsened reputation in the neighborhood, decided to suddenly move to a new place. Bob's chances of reemployment were harder than imagined, and the money obtained from selling their family home decreased rapidly, consumed by the payment of my compensation and their living expenses. Bob and his mother ended up in a cheap, old apartment without a bath, and they were forced to take on physically demanding day labor to make ends meet. In contrast to their lives, I was fully immersed in the profound charm of solo travel. While pondering my next adventure destination, I didn't lose my passion for work, striving for greater results each day.
You truly exceeded yourself. Wow. I'm happy I trusted you with this. For our overseas clientele, it would be ideal if you could go over and beyond and provide this presentation in Spanish. Do you not think? The new female employee had just been made to give a presentation by Mitchell, the department head, and now he was pressuring her to do so in Spanish. What? I can't possibly give a presentation in Spanish all of a sudden, she cried. Hey, did I not tell you that today would be attended by worldwide executives? Being ready for that is just common sense, Mitchell said smugly. But that's impossible. After being instructed to present in Spanish, the new hire, who had been utterly unprepared, was pale and on the edge of tears. I was unable to continue viewing this. Mitch, let me handle the Spanish presentation, I replied. Hey, you, the one who lacks competence. With a sneer, Mitchell challenged me to try. But his face lost its color as I started talking. It was time to exact revenge on him for all of his actions. One of the biggest suppliers of auto components in the United States is where I work. I was assigned to a regional office until recently, but I have since been moved to the company's coveted first sales division at headquarters. Ivy, the famous beauty, was one of 5 of us recently assigned to the division. Mitchell, the division leader, greeted us on our first day. Hello, new workers. The company's elite core is this initial sales division. It is our responsibility to expand our markets by promoting our best items, both domestically and abroad. Millions to tens of millions of dollars are at stake in these transactions. You'd better be careful because a mistake could cost you everything. Sales are the most important factor, and they remain so from the 3rd to the 10th. You understand? Just raise the numbers. Mitchell shouted in a menacing voice, cautiously looking at the faces of the new arrivals. He scowled contemptuously when he reached me. Well, I never imagined seeing you again. I take that you clawed your way out of the regional office. However, I wouldn't be shocked if you needed to return. Until then, please don't make too much trouble. Mitchell was making fun of me in public. There was a sense among the other new hires that I must have made a mistake in the past. I used to work with Mitchell at headquarters in the PR department. I was excited when I first started working for the company and wanted to outwork everyone in order to close as many deals as I could. Mitchell was always criticizing me and pushing me to do impossible things whenever he could since he didn't like my ambition. He has a pattern of persistently harassing workers he dislikes. I was moved from headquarters to a regional office as a result of his harassment. It was obvious that this circumstance was a continuation of it. Mitchell continued making passive-aggressive comments about me and comparing me to the other new hires, as was to be anticipated. He particularly enjoyed comparing me to Ivy and frequently complimented her accomplishments. "Ivy, you're truly amazing. A Harvard graduate, a superb worker, and stunning as well. You seem to have it all, despite the saying that nobody gets everything in life. It fills me with pride. Continue your excellent work." With modesty, Ivy said, "Oh no, it's all thanks to your guidance, Mitchell, and the senior staff's support." Well, and Mark comes next. "What on earth are you doing? Ivy might be able to teach you something. You had decent sales figures in the sticks, but that was probably just chance, isn't it? At least don't bring me down, even though I don't have big expectations for you. You understand. I'll see to it that you are moved even farther away if you make a mistake once again." "Yes, sir." I tried to remain composed as I answered, "I'll keep that in mind. Remember that. Don't just say nice things to me. You would have doubled your current sales if you truly understood. Do you really think this is serious? Come together." In actuality, I had already surpassed my goals and my numbers weren't bad at all. Mitchell, however, decided to overlook that. It seems that some of the other new hires began to notice how strange it was that I was receiving criticism in spite of my strong work. One of them said, "Mark, you're hitting your targets, so why is Mitchell being so harsh?" Mitchell is the type of person who enjoys disparaging workers that he dislikes. He's exactly like that, I clarified. In the meantime, Ivy, the star new hire, was consistently growing her sales because of both her skill and her good looks. Having someone as attractive and talented as Ivy in sales frequently resulted in positive reactions from the male executives who made up a large portion of our clientele. Business is obviously all about abilities and outcomes, but I couldn't help but think that sometimes her appearance was helping her. Nevertheless, I was concerned that her achievement may cause unneeded attention or conflict. "You're fantastic, Ivy. You're gorgeous and talented," I said. "Mark, please don't make fun of my appearance. Do you believe that I have accomplished this much without exerting myself? To ensure that people don't only view me for my appearance, I've put in twice as much effort." I said, "Sorry, that was thoughtless of me," after recognizing my error. She continued to speak sharply, obviously agitated by my thoughtless remarks. "Additionally, Mark, why are you in the first sales division at all? Top salespeople make up this team. Is it accurate to say that you increased sales at your regional office? To be honest, I don't think you're trying hard based on your behavior here. Many people are vying for a position in this division. You're wasting a valuable position if you're not going to attempt." "Oh, sorry." I stumbled, surprised at how serious she was. "You seem so at ease and unconcerned all the time. Why don't you simply request a transfer from HR if you're not serious about this?" she recommended. Since she never gave up and kept working hard, it was only inevitable that someone like her would become the best performer in the sales sector, even though she had likely spent a large portion of her life being viewed by others as just a gorgeous face. Mitchell's affection for Ivy grew even greater. "Ivy, we've got dinner with the department head of the client later, so you're coming with me." When Ivy said, "Yes, I'd be happy to join you," Ivy was dragged along to client meals, and this began to happen more often. She was aware that Mitchell was only using her as a prop for these encounters. "Ivy, you are aware that going to client meals after work is discouraged by the organization, correct? It is not something I would advise doing frequently, even with Mitchell. To be honest, you should avoid him. Is jealousy speaking? You seem to be the kind of person that doesn't appreciate informal surroundings. I need to push myself right now. My goal is higher. Don't put me in the same category as someone who lacks motivation as you." My counsel was ignored. One day, Ivy was chosen by Mitchell to be in charge of a big project's presentation. "I'm confident you can manage it, Ivy. Being selected as a newcomer is an honor, and this is a significant initiative for the company's future. Yes, I'll do my best. The company's recently created EV control system was marketed to both domestic and foreign markets as part of this initiative. The large promotional campaign involved not just the sales department, but also the development and public relations teams. However, it was rash to give a new hire such a significant presentation. Concerns were also voiced by several members of the PR department. Because of her affluent upbringing, it seemed as though the firm was utilizing the gorgeous Ivy as a poster girl. Even rumors of a deeper relationship between Mitchell and Ivy began to circulate among the staff. It was undoubtedly a popular topic, whether it was good or terrible. Since the project involved the launch of a new product, there was an enormous amount of data to gather, such as competition analysis and cost-effectiveness comparisons with the prior control system. One person could not possibly handle it all. Even with the assistance of the development and manufacturing teams, it was still too much for Ivy to handle alone. Furthermore, I was aware that she was practically always pulled out for drinks with Mitchell. She was barely getting any sleep and worked extra every day. Her look was suffering as a result of the dark circles beneath her eyes becoming more noticeable and her face being thinner and more worn out. Can I be of any assistance to Ivy? I must be able to do something to ease the burden. She stared at me as though I, of all people, were insulting her when I volunteered to help her while she was frantically gathering documents in the conference room. I'm all right. Mark, I don't need your assistance. I'm capable of managing this alone. But I persisted because I knew that if she didn't seek some help, things would only become worse. All well, but you won't be able to complete the presentation if you overexert yourself and collapse. I can assist with any background work or data organization. Allow me to assist you, please. She appeared to weigh the advantages of accepting my offer after giving it some thought. Okay, if you insist. Could you create a chart that compares the products of the competitors? Sure, no problem. I began assisting Ivy with the presentation materials after that. As I collaborated with her, the sheer volume of work became even more apparent. I had the unshakable suspicion that Mitchell was acting with a hidden agenda. All right, Ivy, how is this? I gave Ivy the completed document I had created. What? It's already finished. This is incredible. It's really clear and well-structured. Who are you truly, Mark? Me? I'm just a regular worker. But I'm happy it was helpful. But this burden is crazy, really. You would have collapsed if you had attempted to complete it by yourself. It's fine if you don't mention my help, but please let me keep lending a hand. Are you sure? Obviously. Thank you. I must admit that I had no idea how I was going to handle everything by myself. I couldn't let all of her effort to be in vain. I refused to give Mitchell what he desired. We completed the presentation materials the day before the important meeting because I did everything I could to lighten Ivy's load. Thank you, Mark. I couldn't have made it this far without your assistance. No, Ivy, it's all because of your diligence. The only thing left to do is make the presentation flawless. Let's get this done. We then proceeded to the new product presentation, which would decide the company's future. Key executives from major automakers filled the room, and even executives from other countries participated electronically. Ivy gave a polished and pertinent presentation. The crowd remained attentive and cheerful the entire time thanks to her bright grin and polished manner. Her presentation was obviously receiving a lot of positive feedback. Ivy, you nailed it, as expected, Mitchell stated as he stood next to her once she was done. I was sure I could rely on you. I'm grateful. Mitchell, it's all because of your suggestion. Mitchell revealed something shocking just before the queue and a session began. But since we got so many international clients today, if you could push it just a bit further, it would be absolutely perfect. What do you mean? Well, for example, if you could seamlessly switch to Spanish and finish the presentation in style. What? You're talented. Come on. You should have no trouble with that. However, I am unable to. I wasn't expecting this. I can't possibly give a presentation in Spanish without any prior preparation. Suddenly, what do you mean? Did I not warn you that you might have to do it in Spanish? No. I was just informed that I would be presenting. You never mentioned using Spanish for it. Are you now offering excuses? I informed you that today would be attended by worldwide executives. It should have been common sense to prepare for that. But she was only supposed to deliver the presentation in English when she was first given the assignment. She might be able to communicate in Spanish for a few greetings, but delivering a thorough presentation using technical terms, it was not doable. Mitchell, however, kept pushing her into a corner. You can't do it. What? Did you not graduate from Harvard? You'll ruin the presentation and the entire sale if you can't even handle this. But trying to present in broken Spanish would be even worse. Don't respond. You follow instructions when they are given to you. Seeing Ivy go pale and break under the strain was too much for me to bear any longer. Mitchell, let me handle the presentation in Spanish. What? You can't possibly deliver a presentation in Spanish. Unless I try, you won't know, right? Avoid the same error that was made previously. Mark, if you mess up again, I'll make sure you're transferred even further away. I stepped in front of Ivy and started the presentation in fluent Spanish, saying, I'm prepared for that. I began by introducing myself and thanking the executives for giving me the opportunity to present our new product. I then went over the product's development process with them and emphasized its advantages. I concluded by outlining the advantages of utilizing the product and how it would increase profitability, even included some precise figures. The foreign CEOs began nodding and remarking, excellent and amazing, as I spoke fluently. I didn't stop there, though. I went on to give presentations in Mandarin for the Chinese executives and Hindi for the Indian executives. As I fluently transitioned between languages, Mitchell gaped at me in disbelief. The room exploded in applause as before. I successfully wrapped up the multilingual presentation. In addition to the presentation going well, we were able to land contracts with a number of significant businesses. As a matter of fact, numerous clients expressly asked me to serve as their future point of contact. When we were summoned to the CEO's office a few hours later, Mr. Nash personally congratulated us on our accomplishment. Mitchell was there, of course. Mr. Nash, who was unaware of the whole situation, also praised Mitchell and credited his leadership for the achievement. As arrogant as ever, Mitchell most likely claimed all the credit, reveling in the recognition. When Mitchell walked out of the CEO's office, he mumbled to himself, "Well, this seals my promotion." "Don't let today's success get to you," he continued, turning to face us. That presentation seemed like a cheap ploy to me. If I hadn't been your supervisor, Mr. Nash wouldn't have given you praise. Remember that going forward, you must be prepared to respond to any request that is made of you. He then turned to go. What a man. Ivy turned to me and lowered her head as I stood there dumbfounded. Thank you so much, Mark. We wouldn't have gotten the contracts if you hadn't intervened back there. What might have happened to the company's reputation is also unknown. I still shudder when I think about it. However, how come you are fluent in Hindi and Chinese in addition to Spanish? Who are you really? Well, at my first presentation as a new employee, Mitchell did the same thing to me. All of a sudden, he instructed me to speak in Spanish. A catastrophe resulted from my stress and my poor Spanish. Mitchell blamed me for being unprepared, and I was sent to a regional office, even though we narrowly made the sale. I was supposed to be on the quick road to success at the time because I had graduated from a prestigious institution. I put in a lot of effort to live up to those standards, but that's when Mitchell saw me. I could hardly sleep because he worked me to the bone. I was sent to a regional office for a single presenting fault after my scores were deemed Mitchell's. I can't express how angry I was when I found out later that this was Mitchell's method of operation. Despite my initial disappointment upon arriving at the regional office, I couldn't help but think of Mitchell's arrogant face. I began learning languages after realizing I couldn't let things finish that way. The regional office was a cultural melting pot, situated close to a major auto production facility and a U.S. military base. The pub I visited was packed with Chinese and Indians who were more than willing to teach me their languages in exchange for a few drinks, and a businessman who worked with the base offered to teach me Spanish for a nominal fee. Rudra was one of the group. He was the one who actually listened to me when I was depressed and first sent to the regional office. I would let my feelings out while we drank together. On certain nights, I would cry when my family called to express their concern for me. Rudra never once displayed signs of irritation and was always there to support and encourage me, even when I was at my lowest. Life has its ups and downs, Mark. Just drink when things are horrible. I'll hear all of your grievances. He taught me Hindi, and we hit it off right away and had a lot of chats. Over road trips and picnics, we grew close and became friends. You're a wonderful man, Mark. You're trustworthy and honest, but I used to believe Americans were superficial. Rudra, I adore your sense of humor and find you to be incredibly kind and amiable. Concerning money. While money is important to Indians, we value enjoyment even more. American barbecue is the best. He was particularly fond of American barbecues, which complemented my interests. He promised to take me around when the time came after I told him how much I'd love to travel to India someday for a road trip to explore the country's wide landscapes and enjoy an Indian-style barbecue. We made the most of our time together, and to be honest, studying from native speakers was far more beneficial than taking a language course. That's how I quickly picked up Hindi, which is reportedly difficult for Americans. All of it has helped me become fluent in Chinese, Hindi, and Spanish. Next, I'm considering learning Arabic and French. That is amazing. However, why did you conceal it for so long? Because Mitchell had something planned. Any talented newcomers who could challenge him are likely to be crushed by him. I was one of his victims, and after I was transferred to the regional office, I heard that other new hires received the same treatment. Thus, I was also on the verge of being crushed. Oh, essentially, I kept my abilities a secret because I was afraid he might do something. Isn't it better to be ready? Whoa, I didn't know. Mark, I've been so haughty and conceited toward you. I sincerely apologize. It was me who was unable to comprehend. Ivy expressed her heartfelt regret for her treatment of me. However, Mitchell's actions of claiming all the credit for his team's labors and pushing them over their breaking point, ruining their futures in the process, are unacceptable. It's not acceptable. You're correct. I was sent to this department for a reason, in fact. What? You don't mean to wait. If there's anything I can do to help, I'll do whatever it takes. I told Ivy a secret that I was keeping. The customer CEO, who was in the United States at the time, was supposed to attend our usual meeting with one of our key clients a few days later. Mitchell stood apprehensively in front of the executives, having been assigned to deliver the sales report. I moved forward resolutely just as he was ready to start. Before Mitchell delivers his sales report, I have something important to share with everyone. I displayed a few documents on the screen as I was speaking. Despite the brief muttering in the room, I maintained my composure and started speaking to the multinational executives in Chinese, Hindi, and Spanish. Clear proof that payments from subcontractors were routed through a fictitious account and ended up in Mitchell's personal account exposed Mitchell's fraudulent activity on the screen. A video also played, revealing a covered agreement Mitchell had signed at a private club for members only with a particular business. Mitchell pocketed the difference after pressuring the subcontracted parts factory to reduce their pricing while maintaining the invoice amounts. He then funded secret agreements and extravagant client entertaining with that money. Even evidence of him unlawfully transferring corporate property was found. Mark, stop. What evidence do you have to support these falsehoods? They're not falsehoods. This evidence is all authentic. Actually, I worked in the direct audit department of the CEO. Mr. Nash had taken notice of my abilities in the regional office and my experience working under Mitchell. He had given me the assignment to look into Mitchell's actions. Mr. Nash, who had heard reports about Mitchell's dubious activities, was already suspicious. The audit department's assistance was crucial to the investigation's success. Beads of cold sweat formed on Mitchell's forehead as his face went pale. This low-level employee is not worth listening to. He's bluffing everything he says. I promise that I haven't done anything improper. Even though Mitchell didn't appear to know it yet, it was too late for him to make any explanations. Finally, the client company's CEO, who was seated in the center of the room, spoke out. Mark would never tell lies. His testimony is credible. In this case, Mitchell is at fault. What? One of the people seated in the client CEO's chair was someone I knew well. The person who had taught me Hindi was Rudra. I am aware of Mitchell's standing. His practice of ensnaring new hires and dispatching them to regional offices is well known. Our company will not be working with Mitchell since I don't trust him. But what will your business do, Mr. Nash? Yes, we will carry out a comprehensive investigation and deal with Mitchell as necessary. Rest assured, please. I understand. If so, I hope you'll designate a better candidate moving ahead. Of course. Think of it as completed. Mitchell departed the room as if it were the end of the world after Mr. Nash's statement, his face a picture of defeat. In hindsight, Rudra undoubtedly already knew who I was, even if I was unaware that he was the CEO of a significant automaker. He had paid close attention to my tirades about Mitchell during our drinking sessions, I recall, and he had asked more questions than most people would want to hear. Following the meeting, Rudra gave me a cool thumbs up. In a cunning move, I gave Rudra the thumbs up as well. With smiles on our faces, we both walked out. I later gave the audit department all of the supporting documentation. The bogus claims were thoroughly investigated, and Mitchell's misdeeds were made public. Mitchell had warned the factory manager that if they didn't slash their PR prices, he would cut back on their orders. Feeling helpless, the manager cooperated and took part in the false allegations. Mr. Nash put Mitchell on disciplinary leave and demoted him after discovering the full scope of his behavior. When asked, Mitchell acknowledged that he was worried about new hires challenging his job. He destroyed promising rookies before they could pose a threat because of this. Mitchell, why would you do this? Hey, my concern would be incomprehensible to you future stars. I believed I could earn some extra cash from the plant because I required outcomes to keep my job as department head. That seems empty, doesn't it? I put in a lot of work after you sent me away and returned here. However, how about you? You didn't put forth any meaningful effort. All you did was destroy talented new hires. Now, what have you got to show for it? He fell silent. I'm going to work hard on myself to reach a greater altitude. You know you're cheating, don't you? Because you won't leave anything for me. Soon after, Mitchell permanently left the company, biting his lip in disgust. I was expressly asked to serve as Rudra's company's point of contact. Naturally, Rudra and I are still close friends and equals now. I was formally elevated to sales department head in recognition of my contribution to exposing Mitchell's dishonesty. Mark, congrats on your advancement. Your diligence is a true inspiration to me. Please keep directing me. Wherever you go, I'll follow you. Respected Ivy put a lot of effort into honing her language and sales abilities. She follows me around because she wants to know how I approach sales. She soon began working with me for so long that she stopped coming home and instead stayed at my house. We eventually began dating, and she is now my amazing wife. Being sent to the regional office wasn't a significant setback in my life, as I had previously believed. I needed that transfer in order to be successful. All obstacles, even failures, are but stepping stones to achievement. There are no quick fixes for reaching your objectives. The best way to succeed is to work consistently and steadily each day. You don't have to hurry. I'll keep moving forward in life, one step at a time, and remaining loyal to who I am. What's the matter? Are you all right? She told me she hadn't eaten in days when I questioned her. The woman's hair was in disarray, and her clothes were filthy. Her untidy hair obscured most of her face, giving her the appearance of a cursed ghost from a horror film. She also had a heavy body odor and hadn't taken a bath. She's homeless, I see. That makes sense, I suppose, but I had no idea that women might also be homeless. I was thinking of my father's advice as I was ready to pass her. Don't ignore people in need. Unaware that this could result in my losing my job, I paused and extended my hand to the woman. People are valuable. Constantly lend a hand to others and value the relationships you form. Never betray yourself, even if someone betrays you, and don't ignore someone who is in need. My father taught me that. I used to fight a lot as a kid. I grew up in a housing development where kids my age would frequently run around the vacant lots. Boys played baseball most of the time, and they frequently got into arguments with kids from adjacent areas about who may use the vacant lot. We used to settle disputes between youngsters on our own because parents didn't step in to break them up back then. But my father would say terrible things to me at dinner every time he learned that I had gotten into a fight. I wasn't very interested in what he stated when I was younger. My dad died of a disease when I was in upper elementary school. Those words have flooded back to me every time I pray at his altar ever since. As a memento and a manual for my life, I have taken my father's words with me. Despite having good marks in high school, I immediately started working after graduation because I was raised in a single-parent home with limited resources. I was employed by a large corporation due to my strong grades, which was uncommon for someone with just a high school degree. My mother was overjoyed that I had landed a job at such a large corporation after only completing high school. She had been feeble, but she appeared to get stronger when I offered her the position. Everybody else at my employment had graduated from either elite private schools or renowned national colleges. As a recent high school graduate, I didn't feel like I belonged, yet everyone appreciated my effort and commitment. I was given the chance to participate in a project as I kept up my hard work, and it ended up being a success. The project's senior leader, Kenneth, gave me credit for my work. He recognized the accuracy of my work, my analytical abilities, my attention to detail, and my document arrangement. Thanks to you, the project was successful, he added. You were a huge assistance to us. Thank you, he said, and conveyed his appreciation. In retrospect, I believe Kenneth's remarks were intended to inspire me even more. My manager, Tyler, then called me in and informed me that another project was underway, with a potential $30 million value if it were successful. I was brought on board to work on this new initiative. It was tremendously motivating to be chosen to participate in such a significant endeavor with my college-educated seniors, and I was overjoyed. I was determined to finish the project and catch up to the others, so I studied every day. The more I worked, the more results I got, and the more recognition I received, despite the fact that the organization was full of highly educated individuals. People are precious, always help one another, and cherish the bonds you make. Recalling what my father had said, I was really happy with the setting, where I was forming an increasing number of relationships through my employment. I didn't have a significant other, and ever since I started working for the company, my full attention has been on my work. One day, Tyler then revealed that a new employee would be joining the business. The newcomer, Kevin, was apparently a relative of Mr. Harrison, the president. A graduate of Tokyo University, he was also renowned for his extraordinary intelligence. Since he was a mid-career hire and far older than I was, I prepared myself to remain competitive. I had no idea how drastically my life would change with Kevin's arrival. I trained Kevin like a new hire when he started working there. To be honest, it felt strange because he was so much older than me, but I reasoned that it would be best to teach him properly so that he could pick things up quickly. I therefore went over everything with him. He didn't like being treated like a novice, though, and would frequently grimace as though to say, "I don't need you to tell me that." I put up with his attitude while I taught him the work for a few months. Kevin received a promotion to section chief around 6 months later. He advanced through the ranks swiftly, as might be anticipated from a relative of Mr. Harrison. After a year, we switched places, and I was working beneath him. Wow, already a section chief, and he barely knows his job. I heard top staff members say things like that. Kevin was slow to learn, despite the efforts of his coworkers to teach him. Is he really a graduate of Tokyo University? Some even began to wonder about that. Despite its size, this business is family-owned. A few of the board members are Mr. Harrison's family. Kevin would, of course, eventually become one of them. Despite their frustration with his incapacity to understand the task, the senior staff reluctantly treated Kevin with respect because they did not want to lose their position in the company and understood that if news got to the board, it would mean the end of their careers. Kevin began assigning his own menial responsibilities to his subordinates as his status rose. As a manager, I'm too busy to deal with these pointless duties. Would you please enter this data for me, Kyle? He has been throwing all of his work at me lately. When other staff members seek him for help, he urges them to consult someone else because he never handles the specifics himself. He simply doesn't have the answers, to be honest. The senior staff abruptly transfers all of the work to me, his direct subordinate, with no intention of taking up Kevin's slack. They deftly stay out of the way. They are very astute in this regard. I foolishly take these assignments because I lack the calculation to avoid them, which adds to my already heavy workload. But even with all of these added duties, I still had to complete my primary obligations during regular business hours. I was always the one who took the blame when complaints came in. Kevin never accepted accountability. The individual who had done the work was invariably the one he moved it upon. This compelled me to further increase the precision of my own work. I discovered that my skill level had unintentionally increased as I spent my days immersed in work, and I developed a reputation inside the organization for being able to complete things accurately and swiftly. However, incapacity was not a justification for this enormous $30 million endeavor. Kevin would just respond, "Look, you're a high school graduate, so you handle it," when I tried to make time to help him catch up with the rest of the squad. In any case, you're quick at these stuff. Kevin, you won't be able to make accurate decisions when something goes wrong if you don't get involved in the work yourself, I would respond. You can stay up with the senior staff as the project develops if you get started right away. I gave him this advice out of charity, but he always found a way to avoid doing it. Rather, he was quick to join the senior staff at any social function or client meeting. Kyle, would you please review this document? With a broad smile, he would remark, "I'm counting on you because I have a client dinner," hastily getting ready and heading out of the office with the others. The other team members would look at Kevin with skepticism as he left. Even staff members who had never met Kevin before began to inquire as the project went along, "Kyle, is Kevin truly qualified to work on this project?" Nothing seems to make sense to him. His credentials started to be questioned by more and more people. There wasn't even a resume on file for Kevin, and someone from another department who had joined the project claimed that he had been hired due to his familial connections to Mr. Harrison. Given how competent the senior staff was, Kevin's incapacity made him stand out among the others on the team. Because he was related to Mr. Harrison, no one dared to bring it to Tyler, even though normally someone like him would have been kicked off the project. In reality, Kevin wasn't given a lot of work to do on this project. He was really only a symbolic boss. Nevertheless, the team found it unacceptable that Kevin would just sit about and act arrogant. Even when the senior staff attempted to give him assignments, Kevin was unable to manage them, and they ultimately returned to me. As a result, the team began to severely question his qualifications from Tokyo University. One day, he started talking to Jacob, a senior coworker who had graduated from Tokyo University. "I've heard that you received your degree from Tokyo University, Kevin. After all these time, it's good to speak with a fellow graduate." Jacob remarked nostalgically, "I heard you passed on your first try. Impressive." Kevin first smiled in return, but his answers become more evasive when Jacob started inquiring about the department he was in and the instructors he had studied under. The whole Tokyo University graduate thing. It's something Tyler started saying on his own, he finally acknowledged. I didn't say that. Those of us in the vicinity who were listening weren't shocked. We were all disappointed to have our suspicions validated because we had all suspected as much. There were murmurs, is this a case of resumed fraud? However, Kevin had never explicitly stated that he was a graduate of Tokyo University himself, as Tyler had introduced him to the idea. Nevertheless, we had a project to finish, so we ignored Kevin and concentrated on the task at hand. I got up earlier than normal on the day of the client meeting to review the papers one last time. I wanted to make sure everything was in order because Kevin was supposed to show the client the documentation we had produced. I was taking a shortcut through a small park after purchasing a sandwich from a nearby convenience store when I noticed a woman lying on the ground. I rushed to her after stuffing the sandwich into my mouth. She was in a fetal position, curled up, gripping her tummy. "What's the matter? Are you all right?" I inquired. She claimed to have gone days without eating. She was a weak woman with a tangled mess of hair and dirty clothes. The majority of her face was hidden by her long hair, which was slung down her back. She had the appearance of a cursed ghost, something from a horror film. She also had a strong body odor and had obviously not taken a bath in a long time. I thought, oh, she's homeless. I guess that makes sense, but I didn't know women could be homeless too. Thinking there was nothing I could do, I was going to leave her there when I suddenly remembered my father's advice. Don't walk past someone in need. With the intention of giving her some cash so she could purchase some food, I paused and grabbed my wallet. But as I gave her a closer look, I saw that something wasn't quite right. She was breathing heavily, and I could see perspiration on her pale face through the tangle of her untidy hair. She appeared to be in excruciating discomfort. I concluded that she was ill, not just hungry. I thus dialed an ambulance. She struggled on while she waited for the ambulance. Despite her filthy look and heavy stink, I carefully lifted her up and placed her on a nearby bench because I couldn't just leave her lying on the ground. The paramedics hurried over as the ambulance finally pulled up, sirens blaring. They took her to the hospital after I gave them the rundown. I felt sad for her as they hoisted her onto the stretcher. I gave her all of the money in my wallet and instructed her to use it for her medical care. "This is too much. I can't accept it," she began, but I turned her over to the paramedics before she could continue, and I walked out of the park. I heard her yell, "Wait, please," as I turned to leave, but I didn't turn around. The fear of being late for the client meeting consumed me. As I was walking, I looked at my watch and saw that I was already running late. I thought, damn, I'm going to be late too. I began running as quickly as I could. Breathless, I walked into the client's office, introduced myself, and told the receptionist why I was there. I rushed to the elevator after being told to go to the meeting room on the 12th floor. Although the elevator went extremely quickly and the building was 30 stories high, the ride to the 12th story felt very long, something I had never experienced before. The clients and my staff were already situated in the conference room when I arrived and knocked on the door, and everyone's eyes were on me. When they questioned why I was late, I told them about what had transpired in the park. Kevin didn't believe me, but my team did. "Kyle, why in the world did you make the customer wait? A high school graduate is worthless because of this," he claimed. I lowered my head in apology, but Kevin continued his rant. "You're not even able to arrive on time. I understand why you are unable to find a girlfriend. With that mindset, you will always be unmarried. And that hideous tie, really. Try to look respectable, at least. He persisted in disparaging me and bringing up other topics. At last, he scoffed, aiding someone who was homeless? Create a better falsehood, at the very least. Homeless women aren't just lying around all over the place. I kept bowing and apologizing to the client while Kevin continued to scold me. Everyone had received their presentation materials by the time I got there, and Kevin was getting ready to start the presentation. Kevin's main responsibility as a manager was to provide the documents because he was incapable of handling their preparation. Something didn't feel quite right as I turned through the materials. Hold on, something is wrong. I thought, something's wrong. I began to fear as I was going over the documentation, but the client immediately saw the disparity and spoke up. Kevin, it appears that the materials we have in front of us don't match the presentation you're giving. Realizing this, Kevin took a quick look at the papers. Indeed, they were not the same as what he was showcasing. Only the areas I had been in charge of were incorrect, according to a closer look. Kevin bowed to the client and stated, "We sincerely apologize for the oversight in distributing incomplete materials." The customer said, "We'll need to think about it," in response to his request for an opportunity to rework the presentation at a later date. You can leave for today. It was unimaginable to make such a basic error at the start of a $30 million project. After leaving the client's office, our group returned to headquarters. "You're fired, Kyle. I wish to never again see your face. You shouldn't have been involved in such a significant undertaking as a high school graduate. How will you accept accountability for a $30 million deal?" I was completely confident in the contents because I had properly planned everything and reviewed my work. I couldn't have made such a basic error because I had only looked over the docs the day before. Not a single one of my coworkers spoke to me. They had all given up their time and energy to labor late into the night on this project, so it made reasonable. I sincerely apologized and bowed to the team, but they all turned to leave in silence and returned to the office. I couldn't have changed the documents on the spot because they had already been disseminated, even if I hadn't been late that day. Kevin told Tyler the meeting specifics back at the office. Afterwards, Tyler summoned me to his office and instructed me to take a break. I apologized profusely and walked out of the office. I continued thinking about getting fired while I was at home, soaking in the bathtub. I was most likely going to be fired, even though I had put a lot of effort into getting hired by this organization. I got in front of my computer after taking a bath and looked through job advertisements, but every one of them required a college degree. With only a high school degree, I was unable to employ my existing talents in any position. It's not possible, I imagined. I went to bed discouraged. My mom paid me a visit a few days into my leave. She was concerned after I told her what had transpired on the phone. "I prepared your favorite meal. Eat well and feel better." Before leaving for home, she reassured me, "I'll always be by your side, no matter what." I didn't want to add to my already heavy load or cause her any more anxiety. I decided to go out for a change of scenery the following day because I was feeling stuck in my room and it wasn't helping me. I left home the next morning, but strangely, I did so at the same time I typically leave for work. As I stepped outside, I thought, "Riley, my body remembers." It was very quiet on weekday mornings. The tranquility of a weekday morning let me realize how different the neighborhood felt as I walked the same path. Naturally, I followed my feet to the little park I frequently pass on my way to work. As I got closer to the bench, I noticed a woman sitting there, seemingly waiting for someone, even though I had intended to take a break there. There was only one bench in the park. I decided to keep walking and give up on sitting down after thinking, "Oh, someone's already sitting there." However, the woman abruptly got up and turned to face me as I was walking past. My breath caught in my throat as I looked at her. Her features were so remarkable that they nearly seemed otherworldly, making her the most gorgeous woman I had ever seen. I was shocked when she approached me and said, "I really appreciate your assistance the other day. I truly wanted to thank you in person, which is why I've been waiting here." Before me, she bowed deeply. "Oh, did I assist you in any way?" I couldn't remember ever being of assistance to someone so lovely. I remained silent for a minute, thinking, perhaps she's confusing me with someone else. She went on to say that I had phoned the ambulance when she passed out the other day. "Oh, that day's homeless woman is you." It came to me at last. "My name is Malign," the woman said. I introduced myself as Kyle and grinned uncomfortably in a moment of panic. "Have you shed a few pounds?" she inquired. "Well, a lot has happened," I said hazily, attempting to dismiss it. Then, though, I felt compelled to tell her everything. She wasn't responsible for any of this after all. I should have double-checked the paperwork because I knew I was responsible for the confusion. But for some reason, I felt compelled to tell her how frustrated I was. I described what had happened that day, the document incident, and how I got into this predicament. Milene listened to my narrative, then glanced down and said, "I'm so sorry. It's my fault," in a sobbing voice. I snapped back to reality when I saw the despair on her face. With a surge of self-loathing for bothering her with my problems, I asked myself, why did I tell her all of this? "No, you are not to blame." I frantically tried to convince her that this was all my fault, but she continued to keep her head down. She slowly raised her head while I was second-guessing what I had spoken. We looked at each other for a moment. My pulse raced at the sight of her pure, lovely eyes. "It's strange for your section chief, Kevin, to reprimand you like that in front of the client," she said. "Based on what you've told me, I believe Kevin is suspicious. The fact that the documents you put so much effort into creating were abruptly replaced is incomprehensible." She listened to me and remarked that although I had no evidence linking Kevin to the incident, he seemed suspect. I don't think I could have moved the documents by accident, but I also don't have any proof that Kevin did it. I can't do anything but express my gratitude for your concern. Her face became more serious. Kevin did it, that much is certain. He most likely couldn't tolerate having someone with less education tell him what to do. There are many like him, particularly among the sons of affluent households, she asserted. Sons of wealthy families. She must come from a distinguished family, of course. She's out of my league, my mind said. "Kyle, I'll assist you. Together, let's conquer this," she said, grasping my hand. As she squeezed it firmly, I just stared in bewilderment. I was certain that my face would have been a fiery red if I had a mirror. The company called me unexpectedly the following day and asked me to come in right away. I was instructed to go to the president's office as I hurried to the office. I rapped on the door and stepped inside. Inside, I noticed our client from the most recent meeting, Mr. Harrison, looking stern, and Kevin, looking pale. It was Malign, standing next to the customer. Mr. Harrison came over to me and began to talk. "Both Tyler and your coworkers have told me everything. I now comprehend the circumstances. It's not your fault. Kevin was responsible for everything." I realized the reality as I glanced around at everyone's faces. Kevin was the one. He switched the papers. Mr. Harrison described the incident. Kevin was furious that a high school graduate had been chosen to be his mentor since he had joined the company through family ties. The thought of someone with less education ordering him was intolerable to him. He became enraged when he realized that I, a recent high school graduate, was involved in a $30 million project. In order to sabotage me, he devised a scheme to have me sent to a distant branch and derail the project by replacing just the documents I had provided. He had even offered his coworkers money to help him draft alternative documents, but they had all politely declined. Without anyone to assist him, Kevin had produced and disseminated the fictitious documents on his own. When some of his coworkers told Tyler about the incident, this information became public knowledge. Tyler was hesitant to tell Mr. Harrison about it, though, particularly because he lacked concrete proof. Kevin had assigned most of his job to his subordinates, thus he hardly grasped our company's structure. When the data for the fictitious reports was discovered undamaged following the restoration of Kevin's folder, the fact that he had improperly erased the papers became vital evidence. Mr. Harrison concluded his explanation, and then Malign spoke. She had heard my story the day before and understood that the transaction concerned her father's business and ours. She told her father how I had aided her and begged him to give me another chance when she returned home. Sensing that something was wrong, her father had asked Mr. Harrison to look into it, which is how Kevin's dishonesty was discovered. Hold on, she is the daughter of the client company's president, Mr. Hudson. I couldn't help but be overpowered by the circumstances as I listened. Malign trailed behind me as I left the room when the conversation was over. Then she gave me the whole tale. Her father had been adamantly pressuring her to marry a stranger in an arranged marriage. She rebelled and fled from home with no money, wandering aimlessly for days since she didn't want to marry someone she didn't feel anything for. To save herself from starving, she drank water from a fountain in the park. She finally had enough and passed out in the park, where I discovered her. Upon her admission to the hospital, the physicians determined that she had acute gastritis and stomach ulcers brought on by malnourishment and stress. She paid her medical costs with the money I provided her, but as soon as she left the hospital, her parents' hired searcher discovered her and took her home. She informed me she felt much better now and could even go back to her favorite BBQ. Malign wanted to express her gratitude to me face to face, so she had been waiting in the park every day during my regular journey. Mr. Hudson came up behind me as we were conversing. I made selfish decisions without taking my daughter's feelings into account, even though all I wanted was for her to be happy. I feel embarrassed. I'm grateful that you saved her. I would be thrilled to collaborate with you directly, he added, shaking my hand. After a brief moment of hesitation, I shook his hand. Malign and I started going out to eat after that, and soon we started dating. I couldn't resist asking her a question that had been on my mind one day when we were having lunch at a cafe. What made you volunteer to assist me that day? You may have simply said, "Thank you," and moved on. After giving me a serious look, she started to explain. I discovered the business transaction was with my father's company when I heard your narrative that day. I felt accountable for what had transpired as well. After hearing you, I was positive that you weren't at fault for the error. Therefore, I wanted my father to look into it and find out the truth. You were so lovely that I wanted to help you more than anything else. As a stranger, you helped me by taking me to the bench and even covering my medical expenses. Her face softened as she looked down shyly as she spoke. I found myself gazing at her in adoration and couldn't help but feel a strong fondness for her. Mr. Hudson's strong recommendation led to my appointment as the project's head, and I got to work advancing it. Some coworkers were jealous and remarked on how fortunate I was to be with someone so attractive after learning that I was seeing the client's daughter. However, they all applauded me and laughed, stating that it made sense in the situation. Recalling my father's advice, even if someone betrays you, never betray others, enabled me to let go of my hatred toward Kevin for what he did. But I would be dishonest if I claimed I didn't. After a while, Kevin was demoted and transferred to a distant branch, where he received the same retraining as new hires. He was left to live a lonely existence after his family and fiancée abandoned him, and his pay and bonuses were cut to match those of the newcomers. On the anniversary of my father's passing, my mother and I are currently driving to his burial. I want to let him know that Malign and I are engaged. My mother speaks abruptly as she silently looks out the window. I never thought all of this would result from that occurrence. There are many surprises in life. Looking up into the sky through the window, she whispers, "I'm sure your father is grinning down on us now. Dad, you don't have to worry anymore. I mutter softly to myself while holding on to the driving wheel. I now realize that I caused Mom to worry and feel alone for a long time. Now that I've discovered someone I love, I'll keep her and Mom safe. You can relax, Dad. As I stared at the stunning blue sky outside the windshield, I muttered these words to myself. Clunks are the ideal match for you bottom mothers. You are completely out of your league in a setting like this. You're polluting the air, so just go home immediately. Her high-pitched voice reverberated throughout the shop. I looked down, feeling as though everyone's gazes were stabbing me. Just then, my wife took my right arm and held it tenderly. Should we leave? It will be a hassle to stay any longer. My wife, however, was grinning gleefully despite what she had said. James is my name. In addition to being an actor, I founded a theater company. Since our lead actor is starting to appear on TV and our name is becoming more well-known, we have a respectable income and are fairly active with regional performances. With roughly 30 players and crew, we are a fairly well-known theater company, if not particularly well-known. Our little size only serves to strengthen our bonds with one another. I was a member of the same college drama club as the other old-timers in the company. They are all wonderful people that adore the theater. During their time in college, several of them even became so involved with acting that they had to retake a year because they failed certain classes. I'm referring to myself there, though. Anyone can play the lead role on stage, anything at all. You might transform into a fish, a lion, or even an extraterrestrial, or you might be a monarch or a superhero soaring through the skies. Watching this world where anything can happen unfold is exciting, and I became completely engrossed in the challenge of realistically bringing the most fantastical ideas to reality. I was in my senior year of college, and it was early summer. I was given an honor for my commitment to theater, which helped me get some recognition among the students. My buddies and I celebrated the win, which only drew me more into the theater industry. I'd also got my first girlfriend around this time. Her name was Mary, and she was as beautiful as her name suggests. She would set her gorgeous chestnut-colored hair for half an hour each day. I truly respected her because I'm the kind of person who occasionally goes to bed without even drying my hair after taking a shower. She rotated her collection of bags every day, all from renowned premium brands that were easily recognizable. Her jewels and watches were also of the kind whose price tags would startle me. "It's amazing you won an award," she said, and I was ecstatic. When such a lovely and attractive girl tilted her head and asked me in a nice manner, I couldn't help but comply. I would buy her the presents she desired and take her to upscale dinners. Never once did I feel like I was being played. Even if she didn't respect me much, I was still delighted. But over time, she became less hostile toward me. When I was busy getting ready for a theater show, this became clear to me. Due to my busy schedule, I hadn't been able to get in touch with her very much, and when I did, she refused to even look at me. To make things worse, I lost my job offer from a large firm after failing a few classes and having to retake for a year. I struggled with anger, but it was unavoidable. "You only ever discuss theater, James. It's really dull. I take it that you have no prospects. How many people genuinely succeed in a theater ensemble after all? You couldn't even get a job, and now you're just announcing that you'll focus on acting after graduation, which is a declaration of poverty. I can no longer be with someone like that. But you said you liked me, didn't you?" Obviously, that was simply lip service. You won an award and became somewhat renowned, so that's the sole reason I approached you. I think I was mistaken when I assumed I might run into an attractive actor. I think it's time for me to end this. Call it quits. It indicates that we are divorcing. I can't keep up this relationship because I never had feelings for you in the first place. See you then. I hope your tiny poor man has a successful life. Mary remarked that as she turned to go without turning around. I later learned through rumors that she had found a wealthy guy at work. Ultimately, She never made it to any of our performances. I formed a theater company after graduating from college, even though I had to repeat a year. A few of us from the drama club were renting a modest theater for our shows at first. But when a dashing man named Robert joined, everything changed. Whether it was a combat scene, a romantic session, or even a slip and fall, Robert always looked good. He simply made everything appear nice. All of a sudden, our dull little theater group was glamorous. Since Robert's arrival, our group has grown and received proposals from a variety of sources. He also brought with him a following of female fans, which started to generate some revenue. Our calendar became busier as we began to receive more requests for regional concerts. At that point, we had to start considering the administrative and backstage aspects. My cousin is curious about the theatrical industry's business side. Do you mind if I invite her over? When Robert brought Patricia, he remarked that Patricia would travel far and wide to watch different plays since she was a theater enthusiast and had always enjoyed the arts. She had just graduated from college, so she was young yet competent. She may not have been enamored with Robert because she was his cousin. Perhaps she was immune since she had a gorgeous relative. In any case, her serious and diligent approach to theater pleased me. Patricia never wore makeup and always wore her long black hair tied back. She didn't care much about fashion and wore largely jeans and t-shirts. But every small item she carried had a feminine touch, and I felt my heart skip a beat whenever I caught a glance of her immaculately manicured nails. For me, she became the only girl in the universe, even though the other males in the company didn't treat her like a girl. We began being referred to as the theater-crazy couple a few months after she joined. We were watching plays from other businesses and talking about them over dinner by that point. I adored spending time with Patricia, even though we always ate at simple establishments like pubs and eateries. As time passed, we naturally became a couple and made the decision to get married after 2 years. The antique wagon we had been using since the beginning of the theater business began to malfunction sometime after we married Patricia. Fuel efficiency had deteriorated, yet the engine would start. Its exhaust billowed black smoke, and it produced weird noises. This calls for a replacement. About 10 years ago, I got it for a great price when I bought it used. It was more over 125,000 kilometers old. I recalled packing it full of props and costumes before going to local performances. It was full of memories, but if the old ones are preventing you from creating new ones, you can't do that. I spent a lot of money on a foreign brand that I had long admired because I wanted something beautiful if I was going to replace it. The company is well liked in the US and is well known for its sports cars, but their SUVs are also rather amazing. I thus chose to visit the dealership later and called to arrange a reservation. Despite the noises it produced, the clunker of a wagon continued to run, and it was a noticeable sight in the upscale car dealership's parking lot. All expensive vehicles, When I said, "Yeah, but we're customers just the same," Patricia chuckled. Even though we were dressed somewhat plainly for a premium car shop, our goal was to purchase a vehicle. After some trepidation, we made our way to the entrance because we weren't only window shopping. "Welcome." A sophisticated gentleman greeted us as we entered via the automated doors. I was reserving. "James Jess is my name." The man bowed slightly and said, "Please wait a moment, I'll check on that for you," before walking away. I noticed a woman in the showroom who appeared taken aback. I knew who she was. She wore a necklace and bead earrings, and her makeup looked stunning. Her gorgeous yet understated outfit was ideal for the dealership's posh atmosphere. She scowled and gazed at us before making a forceful approach. "Are you James?" I smiled and said, "Mary, long time no see," but she sighed and didn't try to hide her dissatisfaction. It didn't seem like a cordial manner. So why had she bothered to visit? "Are you even aware of your location?" "I hope you're not just here to look around," she said coldly, dampening my enthusiasm. Mary went on, unfazed, "I'm the manager here. Selling automobiles to our customers is my responsibility. You are aware of the type of automobiles we sell here. You know, they're not inexpensive. Yeah, I know, and I have a test drive booked. Are you taking a test drive? I can see the desire, but we aren't allowed to give test drives to anyone who aren't planning to buy. You understand that, don't you? No. What do you mean? Mary groaned loudly, obviously annoyed. What I'm saying is, someone like you, without money, can't afford our cars, she said. You continue to drive that outdated vehicle. Additionally, you could want to dress more nicely. Additionally, your girlfriend there is just as uninteresting as you are. Can't you purchase a single item of jewelry for her? You're such a provider. At my side, Patricia briefly displayed signs of annoyance before smiling again and remaining silent while staring at Mary. Mary's voice became louder, taking Patricia's stillness as permission. Clunkers are the place for people like you. You are completely out of your league in a setting like this. You're contaminating the air, so get out of here. I could feel everyone in the dealership staring at me as her piercing voice filled the room. I glanced down. Patricia gave my arm a light squeeze at that point. Come on. There's no use in being here any longer. It is merely an annoyance. She was grinning with satisfaction, though, in spite of what she was saying. Patricia started making a phone call as we were leaving the dealership. Yes, we will be canceling our purchase because of the situation. Thank you. Goodbye. She hung up, unaffected, and I could still hear noises on the other end. Everything is ok if they return the call to apologize. If not, we'll reevaluate our choices. A dealership relationship is a long-term one. There must be confidence between both parties. You're correct. If they didn't give us a call back after we canceled a $700,000 agreement, it would be odd. In fact, the total cost of the SUV we wanted to purchase with all of its features was $700,000. Although it wasn't a cheap buy, I had stated when I made the reservation that we had been accumulating money and were prepared to pay in full. Mary, however, most likely hadn't checked. Patricia had made a call to the American headquarters of the dealership. Although Mary would probably hear from headquarters, I couldn't envision her apologizing because of her pride. Would the business even offer an apology to people like us? They'll come and say they're sorry. They have to. You ought to be more conscious of your own impact, Patricia asserted. I simply cocked my head in confusion. As Patricia had foreseen, a senior dealership executive visited our home with Mary a few days later to apologize. We deeply apologize for disturbing you at home. Despite your misgivings, Mary acted offensively and irresponsibly here. It's not that. We departed because we were instructed to do so. The businessman bowed deeply and said, "We sincerely apologize," but Mary made no effort to conceal her displeasure. She had been unhappy since coming, frowning and glancing about restlessly, so it's likely that she wasn't content. The woman over there claims that vehicles owned by your company aren't suitable for individuals like us. We belong in a clunker, she said. Mary, is that accurate? What a thing to say to a customer. The male supervisor gave Mary a startled look at Patricia's charge, but Mary simply leaned back, crossed her legs, and pretended not to care. Isn't that the truth, then? Even though they now reside in a large home, they are still impoverished individuals wearing cheap clothing and driving a damaged car. Are they even able to make the payment? Mary's uncompromising demeanor appeared to astound the supervisor. We stated that we had a $700,000 budget while making the reservation. As independent contractors, we would rather pay in full than take out loans. $700,000 in total. Aren't you the manager, Jess? Did you not know? Well, James here hasn't changed a bit since the old days. And how is that related to anything? My spouse used to be a famous stage performer, but I'm not sure what kind of relationship he had with you. He has even performed on the Empire Theater stage. However, it may not be a prominent field. Based on presumptions, we can accept such views. Patricia's unrelenting words caused Mary to go silent and her face to go pale. Yes, I knew James, the renowned performer from the Grindhouse Theater Group. I've been watching your shows for years since I adore the theater. Robert from your company is a favorite of mine, and my wife and I have seen your performances together. My heart was won over by your captivating storytelling abilities, excellent acting abilities, and captivating presence. You have also performed as a guest star at the Empire Theater and in other companies, don't you? I always make an effort to go. This story truly chilled me when I heard it. I wanted to personally come and apologize. As I listened, I took another look at the business card he had previously handed me. Head of America Operations was listed, most likely the dealership's top official in the United States. I quickly spoke up because I felt awkward having someone so important bow to me. No, I'm not really that significant. The head, my spouse, is acquainted with my husband. We are able to accomplish what we do because of viewers like you. I'm always grateful. In sharp contrast to her earlier attitude, Patricia was beaming. No, anyone who has witnessed your performances would recognize how amazing they are. The cast's skill, the direction, and the painstakingly written scripts are all excellent. Isn't it a result of your personality as the company's leader? It's too flattering. I feel ashamed. They claim that you are responsible for the future of American theater. I'll keep on helping you. I thank you. His remarks made me feel ashamed, but it was encouraging to know that someone who truly loved theater found our work to be meaningful. But I wasn't the only one who succeeded. I might not have gotten this far without my wife. She's always been there for me. I wouldn't have gotten the chance to play on different stages, or the firm would have expanded to this size without her assistance. We have come this far because of her, who has always prioritized me and the business. I sincerely appreciate it. James, I took a sip of my tea to cover my shame. My face was flushed, but the cold tea's harshness seemed to soothe it. It appears like you two are a wonderful combination. You obviously love each other very much. We're here to apologize, but both of your characters have touched me. Our employees' immaturity and narrow-mindedness embarrass me. Mary kept her face down and gripped her hands in her lap. I looked at Patricia and she nodded. Since I'm not very adept at exterior negotiations, she always handled them. Thus, she was the one who spoke. I can tell you are sincere. Although the woman hasn't apologized to us yet, we will definitely think about buying a car. Oh, and naturally, choose someone else to manage our account going forward. I'm grateful. Mary, you ought to say something too. Mary said, I'm sorry, while continuing to stare down. Although I was unable to see her face, I knew she must have been having difficulties because of her pride. Looking at Patricia, who smiled back at me, made me feel relieved. We were prepared for our automobile to be delivered after many months. We received great treatment because the senior manager made arrangements for the representative to visit our home for the meetings. However, we had to go to the dealership where Mary worked as a manager for post-delivery maintenance and to exchange in our old wagon. After that, Mary was demoted from manager to rank-and-file employee and given a dressing down. She is currently on tea and reception duty. I find it impressive that she continued to work after quitting. We looked directly at Mary at the reception after parking the ancient wagon in the lot and making our way to the store. She validated our identities while giving us a harsh gaze. Nevertheless, she softly opened the glass door and said, "Please come in." Mary gave us coffee as we were shown to our seats. James, you continue to dress dreadfully. Do you know what TPO is? It represents time, location, and occasion. Appropriate attire for the given circumstance. People may believe you're not welcome here if you don't dress appropriately. I looked at Patricia, startled by her usual abrasive remarks. Well, even after getting a scolding from the higher-ups and being demoted from manager, you can say such things. I apologize. I'm just being truthful. And in a setting like this, wouldn't you look better if you wore jewelry and applied makeup, ma'am? You appear to have nice material, and you would look presentable if you took good care of yourself. Surely a wife's reputation can influence her husband's. I'm sad for your husband because he has such a simple and unglamorous wife. Don't you think that's a little excessive, Mary? Instead of a woman who is simply interested in dressing up, I would rather have a wife who is intellectual and modest. Can't you force your values on us? Everyone has their own. Since I don't often display that side of myself, Mary and Patricia appeared surprised when I responded somewhat angrily to her criticism of my wife. Mary appeared speechless, and as she was about to withdraw with the tray, a disturbance broke out at the door. A man with an alien appearance was frantically attempting to convey something by broad gestures. Although the staff was making an effort to assist, it appeared that they were having trouble understanding the strange language he was using. Mary majored in foreign languages in university, didn't she? Do you not speak languages well? I can speak Japanese, French, German, and Chinese, but I don't know that language. Patricia spoke up while everyone else appeared perplexed. That's Hindi, used mainly in India. India? Sure, let me go lend a hand for a little while. Patricia went over to the man and started talking to him. The man's attitude instantly improved and he started talking freely, even though I couldn't understand what they were saying. The workers appeared to be able to converse well after Patricia provided translation services. His car had apparently broken down. In shaky English, he expressed his gratitude to us after learning that it could be fixed, adding, "Thank you, thank you." This gentleman is an Indian film director. You know, the movies where the king comes back and vanquishes the bad guys, the ones where everyone does a dance at the conclusion. It was enjoyable. The plot remained cohesive and concluded on a positive note despite the numerous ridiculous situations. In America, we couldn't produce such a movie. I told Patricia what I was thinking, and she told the director. Then he shook my hand vigorously. Although he must be well known in India, his grounded demeanor implied that his movie sets must be enjoyable. The director and Patricia continued their conversation. They seemed to be talking about me, even though I couldn't comprehend what they were saying. I was unable to get up from where I was sitting to see them when the director abruptly got up and shook hands. "Thank you, please." "What?" "Yes, indeed." "What does that mean?" I pondered. Patricia's smile was the kind she gets when she's working on a project. Despite my uneasy feeling, I was unable to release the director's hand and attempted to conceal my bewilderment with an ambiguous smile. I didn't realize it at the time, but Patricia had been suggesting me for the lead part in the director's next American set movie, saying I was a well-known American actor. My gut instinct was right on the money. I had to learn how to dance for the lead in an Indian film. Before the shoot, it resulted in days of grueling dance lessons. I somehow made it through production, and when the movie came out, I was an overnight phenomenon after dancing every day until my knees and back hurt and the soles of my feet peeled. About some reason, America went crazy about me dancing to Indian music while costumed as a Native American, even though it was noteworthy that I was an American actor in an Indian film. Dance covers began to appear on social media and quickly gained popularity. Eventually, a follow-up was approved. This change of events still surprises me, but Patricia seems really happy about it. There is no better man in the world than my husband. Everyone should be able to see him. "I'll give him my full support for that," she responded, beaming as usual. Soon after, Mary quit the company. According to rumors, she chose to pursue her language studies further and traveled the world to study abroad. She cut her hair short out of determination, and the dealership employees told me she looked like a totally different person. When she saw me dancing in the middle of an Indian film, she exclaimed, "I'm completely outdone. I can't support him to that extent." The majority of people most likely couldn't accompany their spouse to India to provide support and translation services. I am simply thankful for my wife. Patricia and I took a drive in our new automobile on one of our days off. It is quite pleasant to travel in, steady and silent. It's simple to drive. I'm really happy we purchased it. I believe everything worked out well in the end because my wife stood by my side, even though there were some difficulties along the way. It all led to a fantastic opportunity. It's been tough up till now, but I'm really glad you were with me. What's this all of a sudden? I just had the want to express it. I'm looking forward to seeing you more. Same here, she put back. And not just me, but this little one too. My eyes widened in surprise at Patricia's comments. She opened her bag and took out a pink pamphlet. This was a book of maternity health records. I was so emotional that I gave her a tight hug. I'm grateful. I will always treasure you both. Yes, I do hope that our family will grow. Let's be joyful every day. I'm excited about our future together, Patricia. We might use this vehicle for camping and family vacations. We will undoubtedly have many pleasant days ahead of us, and for that, I want to value her even more, to make her happy. That's exactly how I truly feel. Alex is my name. I work in an office, and I'm 28 years old. Before I started working for this company, a lot happened. I was placed in daycare at a young age since my parents owned a small business. Despite being the only child at the time, my parents, grandfather, and I shared a leased apartment. My granddad and I had a tight relationship. I would accompany my grandfather when he went shopping in the evenings because my mom would frequently arrive home late. He was a good man who always got me snacks, cooked rice, laid out the side dishes he bought, and occasionally made curries. I wasn't particularly powerful physically. My mom would leave work to drive me to the doctor whenever I had the flu or something because my granddad was still a full-time employee. However, I can vividly picture her expression of frustration as she said, "You're really a handful." My nights were extremely depressing since my parents' business wasn't going well, and they were constantly fighting over money. When I started elementary school, I had my own room because the apartment was a little roomy, but I couldn't sleep properly because I could often hear them fighting. My grandfather never participated in their disagreements and went to bed early. I frequently stayed at home due to leg discomfort or headaches, even in primary school. "Take it easy," my grandfather would remark as he left in the morning, still working. "Are you not feeling well again?" My mom said, worried, before leaving to work with my dad. She once took me to the doctor after calling the school, but they were unable to diagnose the issue. I occasionally passed out during morning assembly and woke up in the nurse's office, even when I was enrolled in school. I would feel better and go back to class after taking a short break. However, because I was absent a lot, I found it difficult to form friends and was typically left alone. I didn't enjoy school at all, and after courses, I would go straight home and play video games until my grandfather got back. My studies suffered as a result of my irregular attendance at school. Kevin was a boy in the same grade as me who lived close by. I was typically by myself, so I once persuaded Kevin to play video games with me while he brought me the handouts from the days I missed. He smiled as he approached. We had fun playing games together because Kevin's parents worked late too. "Oh, I need to do my homework or my mom will get mad at me," Kevin stated abruptly. As a result, we worked on our assignments together. I didn't understand anything and was already falling behind in my academics. Kevin assisted me with my assignment in a patient manner. But before long, I was unable to attend school on another morning. My mom apparently dropped by a bookstore on her way back from a meeting with my teacher and placed a few reference books on my desk without saying anything. With an inward sigh, I thought, so I have to study. I didn't enjoy studying at all. My mother thought I was just making up a sickness to get out of going to school because she didn't know what was causing it. However, I actually experienced headaches and occasionally stomach pains. Kevin visited again one day. He said, "Hey Alex, are you sick?" "Yeah, I really feel bad in the morning, but the doctor can't figure out why," I responded. Kevin smiled mischievously. "Look, "I snuck this into my backpack today," he remarked, grinning as he produced a gaming guide. I became quite excited. I loved playing video games, but I detested learning. Before my birthday, I would go shopping with my grandfather and persuade him to purchase me a game, even though my parents never bought me any software. To avoid my mother discovering it and becoming upset, I kept it tucked away in my desk drawer. Kevin responded, glancing at my study desk. "Oh, reference books. Let me check." Kevin seems to like learning. Taking one of the books, he began jotting down his responses in his notepad. In the meantime, I became absorbed in the game guide that Kevin had loaned me. I played the game by myself, attempting to solve it. By dusk, my grandfather was back at his house. He appeared to be preparing curries that day. It had a wonderful scent. I hadn't eaten lunch that day because I hadn't attended school. "Kevin, if you'd like, you can stay and have dinner with us," my grandfather said as he called us. My granddad offered some curry to Kevin. Kevin said it was exquisite, thanked my papa, and accepted with pleasure. Kevin and I became close friends as a result. "Hey, Alex, could you check the answers in the reference book I worked on?" Kevin asked as he was heading out, and made their way home. I checked the reference book and Kevin's notebook, and he was spot on. By reviewing Kevin's responses, I was able to gain a better understanding of my studies over the course of several days. We were in the early elementary school years at the time, and we eventually advanced to the higher classes. I did, however, occasionally miss school. As usual, my mom would purchase fresh reference books in silence and thump them onto my desk. Kevin and I would complete our schoolwork together and then enjoy playing games at night as I gradually became more motivated to learn. My parents were still fighting over money as usual. I would play video games in an attempt to decompress, but their voices would keep me awake even after taking a bath and going to bed. I would therefore play games late into the night while lowering the volume. In retrospect, I saw that my unpredictable lifestyle probably had a part in my morning sickness. I continued on to junior high school in spite of everything. I was glad to be in the same class as Kevin throughout my first year, but as soon as middle school coursework started, I slipped behind. Kevin became busier and began attending cram schools. We kept walking home together after school because he wasn't too interested in sports clubs either. After taking a bath one evening during my sophomore year of high school, my grandfather passed out. My grandfather never regained consciousness and died, but my mom phoned an ambulance right soon, and I accompanied her to the hospital. On a chilly winter day, my grandfather, whom I loved, had a modest burial. I spent days crying in my room after I got home. I even spent some time weeping in bed and skipping school. After that, I started purchasing meals from convenience stores to eat by myself, and my mom would give me money for dinner. Throughout my middle school years, I continued to have erratic attendance. Kevin concentrated on his schoolwork, and I grew to like a bunch of naughty youngsters from the after-school club. My mother would often groan when I got home, and because there was nothing fun to do there, I began to stay out late, visiting the homes of my naughty friends and occasionally not coming home until after 9 p.m. I would occasionally even spend the night at their house, but I would notify my mother by text, to which she would never respond. Our group leader had a large residence where we were free to play games as much as we liked. I kept skipping school, and my parents, exhausted, stopped even reprimanding me. We got together at convenience stores to get meals and snacks. My friends all appeared to be dealing with family issues of their own. Everyone would congregate at the leader's house, who was incredibly wealthy and would even buy us drinks. The majority of them hardly even went to school. Kevin began to distance himself from me. Perhaps misfortune comes in waves. My parents died in a vehicle accident the year after my grandfather's death. My dad's sister, my aunt, took over because I was at a loss for what to do. I was left alone after losing my family. That day, like the day my grandfather passed away, I was struck with melancholy despite the fact that I wasn't very close to my parents. Another chilly winter day has arrived. My parents' business had to close, but I managed to live in the apartment until I just finished middle school. However, I eventually had to leave because it was a rental. My aunt claims that although I had a respectable amount of life insurance, the majority of the funds were used to pay off my dad's debts and close the business. I gave up on attending high school, of course. I had no desire to go at all. I started living alone in a tiny apartment without a bathroom after my aunt took on the role of guardian. I found a job at a neighboring convenience store because I had to start working right away to support myself. Early in the mornings was when I worked. Brian Smith, the store manager, treated me with kindness and patiently showed me how to do the job. I didn't have time to hang out with my wicked buddies, but I also lost track of them. My morning health started to improve about that time, and I established a pattern, but work kept me so busy that by the time I returned to my apartment, I was worn out. The cherry blossoms tragically dispersed as spring arrived. In order to alleviate my weariness, I began visiting the neighboring historic baths on a daily basis. But with everyday trips, the bathhouse costs started to mount up. I'd been eating meals from the convenience shop every day, so I thought it was time to start cooking for myself, even if it was an inevitable expense. I started gradually setting aside money from my paychecks to purchase kitchenware and a rice cooker. I used to visit the grocery store after work to try my hand at cooking and find deals. Despite my inexperience, I frequently thought about how my grandfather would expertly cook. I purchased a portable stove to conserve gas. In addition to adjusting to work and getting by day, I eventually got used to cooking for myself by gathering culinary supplies from a dollar store. I purchased a used, antiquated washing machine, and because I had a balcony, I dried my clothing indoors. Cleaning and shelf stocking were among the hectic jobs at the convenience store. Brian took me out to eat one day. "Alex is studying something you detest?" he inquired. I answered, "Yeah, I wasn't really a fan." I told Brian about my family situation when I was recruited, so he was aware of it and didn't ask any more questions. However, he laughed and added, "I wasn't too fond of studying either." He went on to say that he will support my future efforts. For the first time, someone other than my mother, who solely urged me to study, gave me encouragement. I made the decision to put in a lot of effort and thanked him before going to the bathhouse. There was a huge mural of Mount Fuji on the wall of the old-fashioned bathhouse. I would frequently gaze at it, allowing it to calm my weary body from work, and then fall asleep peacefully. By conversing with the residents of the same apartment complex at the bathhouse, I began to get to know them. Many of them began frequenting the convenience store to shop after I gained their support for my efforts as a young person. Brian smiled and said, "Alex, it looks like you've made a lot of new friends lately." "They are, in fact, my neighbors," I answered. "They're all nice people who support me," and Brian gave me a kind smile. Then summer arrived. I purchased an air conditioner using my savings. The store had air conditioning, but at night it was too hot to sleep there. When my bathhouse sessions, I would cool off when the air conditioner was installed. Cold noodles became my nighttime staple, and I was also able to save electricity. I liked summer's heat better than winter's chill. The street trees were gorgeously green, and they gleamed from the rain. I often thought about how I had caused my parents so much concern before they unexpectedly passed away, without getting the chance to repay them, and winter always brought back memories of the day I bid goodbye to my grandfather. The summer seemed to go by fast. Kevin showed up to the convenience store one fall day wearing his school uniform. Upon seeing me at the register, he was taken aback. "It's been a long time, Alex. I see you're putting in a lot of effort and remaining on course," Kevin remarked. I answered, "Yeah, I have to work." Kevin grinned and was relieved at how much more at ease I appeared to be. I didn't see Kevin again after that, and winter came around again. The chilly wind pounded my rundown apartment's windows, allowing breezes to enter through the gaps. I purchased a tiny space heater since I didn't think I could make it through the winter. I would frequently find that my body, which had been warmed by the baths, would rapidly cool off because I am rather sensitive to the cold. I started preparing hot pot every day and purchasing Napa cabbage. I experimented with several varieties, occasionally using miso to warm up pork soup, occasionally making spicy hot pot, and occasionally using chicken. My chili body would get hotter if I added more chili powder. I had been employed at the convenience shop for roughly 4 years by that point. When I was 19, I discovered Brian at the workplace with a friend from high school named Matt. Brian said he needed to talk and called me in. Actually, Alex, the store will relocate to the town's primary hospital. You would have a very difficult commute there. I therefore sought advice from my friend Matt, a classmate. An office clerk is needed by a local company, he said. Would you be able to work there? What? Alex? Me working in the office? It largely consists of easy computing activities, Matt remarked. I think you can handle it, but it can get pretty busy. I answered, I'm not very good with computers. Matt reassured me, don't worry, it's just entering numbers. I chose to accept Matt's offer since I couldn't afford to lose my job. The commute was convenient because the company was located near a noodle factory. Matt's introduction helped me land the job, despite the fact that I had only completed middle school. After I introduced myself and purchased a suit, a senior coworker gave me a tour of the company. It was my responsibility to phone each of the company's 200 or so customers every day to collect their orders. I had to enter the figures into the computer. Knowing it was only numbers gave me a small sense of relief. Chris, a coworker of mine who was roughly my age, divided the workload with me. I eventually figured things out thanks to his patient instruction. They had hastily publicized the position because it appeared that the previous clerk had departed. Chris and I got along well, and we were about the same age. Although all the bosses were kind, my work was very significant. I had to make calls to supermarkets and noodle shops, check their inventory, and precisely enter the orders into the computer. Chris and I divided the calls as I grew more accustomed to the position, each managing 100 clients. I was a little anxious, but I completed the assignment. But when I got my first paycheck, I was taken aback. Despite being formally employed, I only received roughly $1,300 in take-home income. I had just completed middle school, though. I knew it would be difficult to find another job if I tried, and I had no other skills. I decided to persevere, conserving money where I could and continuing. My former convenience store manager's friend, Matt, who had referred me to this position, sent me an email on my phone one day. I had heard Matt say, "If you ever need anything, just reach out." I responded to his message by saying, "Thanks to you, it's going well." The fact that he was considering me truly moved me. Despite the poor compensation, it was a comfort to work there because of the rather familial atmosphere. Hey, sometimes Mr. Harris, the chairman's son and president, comes by to check the office, Chris told me in a low voice one day. Simply keep your head down and concentrate on your task when he does. I took notice of Chris's advice and thanked him. Actually, I had never laid eyes on the president's face. What sort of guy was he? I wondered. A month or so later, Mr. Harris appeared. Everyone fell silent instantly and proceeded to work hard. Mr. Harris, who had furrowed brows and a severe face, appeared to be in his 40s. Before he left without saying anything, he silently examined each person's computer screen. After that, everyone appeared relieved. Chris later informed me that if something annoyed Mr. Harris, he would get irascible and start ranting. That his visit had gone smoothly gave me a sense of relief. "Alex, one of our client noodle shops is surprisingly good," Chris commented afterward, and we spent the evening there. Yes, the food was delicious. We divided the cost, of course, but the costs were fair. Time went by as we became closer, and we would occasionally go to other clients' noodle restaurants or get coffee together. I realized I had been mistaken to expect much of a bonus, and my pay went up a little, but it was still a minor raise. It was merely a small increase in my base salary. Before heading to bed, I liked to play mobile games since I had upgraded my phone. Chris and I had a great time playing internet games. It brought back memories of how much I enjoyed playing games as a child. The winter I dreaded came once more. As the town got ready for Christmas, couples strolled around beaming, and the lights changed to red and blue. Even though it's embarrassing, I don't think I'll ever have a girlfriend. I can hardly make ends meet on my current meager salary, let alone consider dating. I asked Chris if he wanted to go out to a bar with our bonus, but he had a date, so we had to reschedule for the next day. The street trees were withered and covered in snow, which was falling lightly and resembling white cherry blossoms. I missed spring. As I strolled around the streets by myself, snow silently accumulated on my transparent umbrella. As scheduled, Chris and I headed to the bar the following day. The north wind was cold, but the snow had ceased. I occasionally paired a beer with homemade hot pot at home, but this was the first time I went out to drinks with a coworker. We enjoyed some delicious meals after the year-end celebration, and the booze helped to lighten the mood. Chris questioned me about my time in school and how I got a job at the company. I told him how much I hated school and how my grandfather raised me because I had nothing to conceal. Chris stated that he will eventually need to take over his family's modest business. His girlfriend and he have been together since high school. Chris claimed to have heard from top staff members that many people had quit the company as a result of my salary complaint. Chris, however, who was still living at home, didn't appear to be very concerned about money. Then, after the new year, he asked me to take a drive. Despite having a driver's license, Chris admitted that he frequently used his father's vehicle. It was my very first time taking a drive. We ended the evening anticipating our post-New Year's excursion. On the drive home, I felt heated, perhaps because of the alcohol. I often walk 30 minutes to get to work. The city is near to where I reside. Chris and I joked and took our time returning, making the walk, which typically felt lonely, more pleasurable and lasting roughly 40 minutes. The excitement of New Year's has never really been felt by me. Although the alcohol tasted delicious, I never overindulged even as an adult, since I had vague memories of my dad drinking constantly and whining to my mom. I suppose my mom never allowed my dad to overcome her because she had a strong will. I took a few days off when work ended for the year, but nothing noteworthy occurred. I simply carried on with my thrifty routine. I took some time to relax, play games, and treat myself to a slightly more expensive spa treatment. I went for a stroll around the neighborhood since I was bored and saw that the community center that had once stood there had been destroyed. Had it been moved, I wondered. I often sit at a desk, so I moved a lot that day, which was unusual for me. I noticed a lot of elderly folks walking their dogs, and there were a good number of detached homes even in the metropolis. I'd always wanted a dog as an only child, but leased apartments didn't allow dogs, and naturally, my present apartment didn't allow them either. With my meager wage, I reasoned, I probably couldn't afford to care for a dog, even if I could have one. I was really pessimistic about the future. I resorted to my typical hobby of playing games as an escape from reality. As promised, Chris asked me to go for a drive in the new year. He picked me up close to where I lived. The car was really opulent because the road in front of my apartment was little. I became aware of my legs trembling instinctively as I settled into the passenger seat. Even I was taken aback, and Chris noticed and inquired about my well-being. I became aware that the car had brought back memories of the car accident my parents had been in. After I confided in Chris, he assured me, "Don't worry, I'll drive safely." The shaking eventually stopped, and after 2 hours or so of driving, we came to a picturesque mountain road. I liked the natural scenery and the town's outlook from the hills. I felt really content when I got home. I was initially startled by my own phobia of driving, but the expansive natural surroundings calmed me down. After the New Year's holiday ended, work resumed. I try my hardest not to make any blunders. I discovered that the vacant area where the community center once stood had been transformed into a little park one Sunday while I was on a stroll. I began traveling that route after realizing it would decrease my commute while strolling through the park. It also shortened the walk to the baths the following day. I started going to the park every day after that. The park's cherry blossoms were stunning in the spring. There were now more than 300 clients at work. With each of us managing 150 clients, Chris and I divided the burden. I was able to arrive home at my regular time. I started to take my time walking the route because I had a specific time to wake up in the morning. Now that I had a shorter commute, I took deep breaths before leaving and appreciated the flowers in the park. For me, even the winter seemed drawn out and challenging. It felt like spring and summer went by so quickly. The summer soon gave way to the lonesome autumn of falling foliage. It was still unbearably hot when I visited the graves in September, and a homeless man moved into the park I frequented every day. It was a little unnerving, but there was something about the man's face that made me think of my grandfather, who had died too young. His profile had a remarkable similarity. On my walk home from work one hot evening, I saw that the homeless man appeared to be in poor health, most likely as a result of the heat. Since I assumed he wouldn't be able to pay for the medical bills, I decided to buy him a bottle of water from a vending machine instead of calling for an ambulance. "Are you okay?" I asked him as I walked up to him. He appeared to be awake. After giving him the drink, I left for home. I was relieved to discover that the homeless man was sleeping well on a bench and had improved in appearance the next morning. As the chill of winter drew near, the street trees became scarlet with fall foliage. Chris's father unexpectedly died of a disease around that time. Chris was compelled to quit the company early in order to take over the family business as a result. Before our farewells, I thanked Chris for everything. After that, I had to take over Chris's responsibilities, which included entering data and taking phone orders for more than 300 clients. This, of course, resulted in a great deal of overtime. A replacement clerk would be employed shortly, according to my employer, but it took a while for anyone to show up. As the days got busier, mistakes happened from time to time, and many days were spent apologizing to clients over the phone for their grievances. My employer frequently had to rush out to make deliveries because the clients were upset about shortages, and I had to apologize to him more often as a result. Winter wasn't easy. My body was exhausted, and I was often arriving home late. Weary from the day, I struggled home in the cold. Despite my lack of appetite, I made the decision to warm up at the baths. The typical homeless man was shivering and freezing in the cold when I arrived. I returned to my apartment and gathered an old jacket I no longer wore, some clean sweatpants, extra towels, and one of my 2 blankets. "It's much too cold out here, sir," I said to the homeless man. "Use this blanket, please," I went on. "There's a bathhouse close by if you like. How about we both go together? You can get warmed up. You can change into some of the outfits I provided. You're the one who brought me a drink the other day, young man. That was incredibly beneficial to me." The old man followed me gently to the baths and said, "If you're offering, then I'll go with you." The owner of the bathhouse remained silent because it was almost time to close. I lent the elderly man some shampoo, packed his clothing in a small bag, and we showered together. After hurriedly cleaning myself, I assisted in washing his back. We both relaxed in the hot bath as the man grinned. I brought a jacket, and he warmed up nicely, changed into my clean clothing, and departed the baths. He remarked, "You saved my life twice now, young man," as I carried him back to the park while keeping the blanket wrapped around him for warmth. Then he cuddled under the blanket on the bench. I returned to my apartment, disposed of the man's old clothing, and went to bed early since I was exhausted. The man was still sleeping comfortably when I woke up the following morning. I arrived at work and got to work on my regular duties. Mr. Harris abruptly entered the office while I was taking orders, trying to serve all 300+ clients. After observing me working at my computer in silence for some time, he suddenly said, "Alex, our clients have been complaining a lot about your recent errors. You're finished here. There's no point in coming in tomorrow. Are you going to fire me?" I objected, saying, "I've been trying my hardest to manage the workload of 2 people. Stop talking. Excuses are not what I want to hear. You're fired. I'm the president, and I'm saying that." Mr. Harris yelled. "I understand," I answered. I collected my belongings in the quiet office, thanked my managers, and walked out of the business. After being abruptly let go in that manner, I trudged back to my flat through the sunny afternoon streets. "Young man, are you off work already today?" someone asked me as I was walking through the park. Upon closer inspection, I saw that it was the typical homeless man. He had shaved his beard and chopped his hair. I estimated his age to be approximately 75, yet he looked so much younger that I hardly recognized him. After I took a seat beside him on the bench, I added, "Actually, I just got fired from my job." "Well then, shall we go?" the elderly gentleman asked. Despite my lack of understanding, I followed him slowly. He guided me to the front door of an upscale apartment complex. He entered after unlocking the door. He unlocked the door to a spacious apartment after we rode the elevator to the top floor. "What is this location?" I inquired. The elderly man handed me a business card and declared, "This is my home. Asterisk Stephen Sullivan, chairman of SS Foods, asterisk," it said. "You're the chairman, right?" I was surprised. It was the most amazing place I had ever seen, and the view beyond the windows was stunning. "It's much too large for me. I want it for you. I found a purpose to live a bit longer because of you, and you saved my life twice," he stated. I gave him my name when he asked. The intercom buzzed at that moment. "Are you at home, grandfather?" A woman's voice stated, "I'm coming up now." She taught me a lot about Stephen. Yvonne, the woman, was the elderly man's granddaughter. She clarified that Stephen had resorted to drink and ended up in the hospital following the death of his wife. Yvonne would occasionally stop over to clean the flat, and she was unable to locate her grandfather once he was released from the hospital. He refused to go back to the apartment, but she ultimately located him in the park. He clarified that he no longer needed such a large flat and that staying at home caused him to drink excessively. The spouse of Yvonne's mother, who had assumed the role of president, was in charge of the business. SS Foods, Stephen's company, was a large corporation that owned numerous supermarkets. Stephen called Mr. Harris, the president of the noodle company I had worked for, as soon as he learned the reason for my termination. "Hi, Mr. Harris, it's Stephen Sullivan. After you wrongfully fired Alex for taking on an impossible task, I made the decision to stop doing business with your company. Please, this can't be," said Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Harris stumbled, but Stephen cut the call off without saying anything more. He smiled at me after putting the phone on speaker so I could hear it. Stephen severed my connection with the organization I was employed by, he claimed. He had been told by friends how hard I was working. I went out for a fancy sushi dinner that evening, and shortly after, Stephen gave me the apartment. I made the opulent skyscraper my home. Stephen laughed hysterically as I ran around the apartment like a child because I couldn't believe it. I began learning how to operate a computer from Yvonne, who worked from home. When I finally got a job at Stephen's company as an office clerk, my pay tripled. Being of the same age, Yvonne and I became close and soon began dating, which ultimately resulted in our marriage. I invited Stephen to move in with us, but he said he intended to live close by. He was thrilled, and today we all three reside in the high-rise apartment together. I am expecting our first child with my wife. The way fate operates is peculiar. My life was transformed by only 2 modest acts of kindness for Stephen. My grandfather seems to have returned to me now, and I made a commitment to keep Stephen and my family safe going forward.